I will give $10,000 to anybody that can prove me wrong here. I promise you won't. So I'm reading through old CIA files. Here's a good starter, is just the CIA basically, in their words, not mine, showing that a brainwave can turn into a particle just like a radio wave turns into a photon. Turns out this explains the whole universe, far beyond most people's comprehension. I'm going to explain it in my best layman's terms. Stick around for maybe 2 minutes and this will make way too much sense. So to start, I was reading a declassified document on warp drives. That's weird. Basically, bending space in one way and at a higher point in another causes space and time to move around you. Those don't seem really interlinked yet until you start understanding that space and time is its own dimension. And you look at some of their summaries of this, and this was written in the 80s. It was a concept, but it's talking about the Large Hadron Collider, like what CERN does. And I mean, I've seen so many articles on CERN people saying that their collider is haunted, like there's a specter in there. It's weird. Forget all that. It's just interesting to think about. Now we go to a file like this, where they're studying research in human paranormal abilities. So think about the gateway process. I did a video on this. I did 2 videos on these concepts. Watch them first. They're pinned, or just watch this one and I'll do my best to explain it. But this is basically the 4th dimension. This is a tesseract in 4D. Think about Interstellar at the end when he goes in the black hole and he's manipulating the past. How is that scientifically sound? It wasn't until now. Now here's another one of those that would make more sense to us. Picture this is your future, say it's a kitchen, this is your present, your bathroom, and this is your living room, which is the past, like your house. But they're all moving by a default of nature and intersecting at different points. So when he enters the black hole and goes into Murphy's room, he's not in the 3rd dimension anymore, he's in the 4th. Therefore, he can manipulate the past. Backed by science. So how does this explain the universe and human paranormal abilities? So when you map out something like the flower of life, which I have a video on also pinned, watch it or don't, you get something like a torus, which also explains electromagnetic fields. This was not proven until we discovered that the platypus can detect who is what with its beak because of these fields. It goes underwater, its eyes and ears shut down, it's blind and deaf. Yet it can pick up electromagnetic fields from your brainwaves enough to know friend from food. And again, these brainwaves turn into particles. We're starting to kind of get somewhere here with how does all this work? There's 5 dimensions. Now here is a good example of all of these, but it's 2D. It's, we can't really map that out. We can't perceive it. But picture line dimension 1, square dimension 2, that would be where we live. You can go up, down, left, right, forwards, and backwards. It's 3D. Then you have the 4D, which was the tesseract I just showed earlier, Murphy's room. And then a 5-dimensional cube, which turns into a light hologram. What the fuck is a light hologram? First, just understand how dimensions work. If you had an anthill, a pet anthill in a 2D space, it could never know you exist because it can't perceive you. So you dump a bucket of water on it, and it's like their whole world flooded as an act of God. It's interesting to think about, but just follow it here. Us living in the 3D could never perceive this or this. But we have proof that this exists because we have space and time and ways to manipulate it. So now we look back to these CIA files, and they show even in the 19th century that physicists knew that the 3D was not enough to prove the fundamentals of life, of nature. And they go on to say that it's more so our consciousness projecting thoughts out that affects our reality. How does that work, and why does this make sense? They're actually all very interconnected. And again, really weird that the oldest history we have, people knew this, but this is that flower of life I'm talking about overlaid on a quantum carpet, which is used to measure density and spaces between particles. So these guys knew something we didn't, and they figured it all out with circles. The government knows it, and most of us don't. And frankly, it's pretty damn confusing until someone explains it out, but if you stick around, this will make too much sense. So picture something like this being the universe we live in, projecting light inwards. Our consciousness would be a part of that because we're creating particles with our thoughts, whether we can see them or not. Kind of goes over the science of manifesting, also heavily seen in the gateway files. It's weird. It is super weird, but it concretely proves that we live in a five-dimensional reality, and by physics and getting as far down as the quantum level, it's a hologram of light. And again, the platypus proves this. So do these gateway files and even our ancient history. We live in a hologram of light. I'm not saying this. I mean, I kind of am, but I'm just reading off these files. We live in a hologram of light, and we produce electromagnetic impulses through our brain, through our heart, that can directly input on our reality. So now you think about stuff like fear-mongering. Little out there, but follow me. If we're all focused on something bad is going to happen. Then you look at stuff like an eclipse or the fucking war on drugs. I mean, all these different things, and it creates fear, it creates hate. Okay, follow me. If everybody loved more, it would directly change this, because as a collective, we have more power than as a singular being. I mean, I know tons of people who would talk about manifesting. In fact, all of my rich friends swear by it. I'm starting to myself because I see results. It's not one of those things that makes sense until you start looking at the science. But it's weird. Just really think on this for a minute. Follow dimensions upwards, and it's irrefutable. 10 grand. Prove me wrong. You won't. Also, if you made it this far in the video, you're not here because you think you can win 10 grand. You're here because I put up some of the gateway noises that you can't consciously hear, but your consciousness picks up on. Go listen to those gateway tapes. They will open your mind and change your life. Thank you.